Bonaventure Aubrey. I study the ecology of the biosphere. Welcome to our biome, the taiga.
The taiga is a dense evergreen forest of coniferous trees. The winters are bitterly cold and the summers are mild.
In the ecosystem, the various relationships range from a species to a population to a community.
This moose is an example of a species. These moose are an example of a population, and the moose, along with the birds and the trees, make up the community, which is part of the ecosystem.
There are many autotrophs and heterotrophs in the taiga. Some heterotrophs are moose, snow leopards, and lynx. Some autotrophs are coniferous trees, grass, and berry-bearing shrubs.
Autotrophs are organisms that make their own food. The plants in the taiga do this through photosynthesis. They are also the producers of the ecosystem. The animals that eat the plants are the consumers. There are also decomposers in the taiga, including moss and mushrooms.
All the species in the taiga may be carnivores, herbivores, omnivores, or detrivores. Moose are herbivores, lynx are carnivores, and snow leopards are carnivores as well.
The moose, lynx, beaver, and snow leopard all live in the habitat of the taiga, but are in different niches.
The weather has a big effect on the trophic level. During the winter, the temperature can get as low as -20 degrees Celsius, which lowers the food supply. However, the constant daylight during the summer enhances it.
The climate is mostly the same throughout the year in terms of precipitation. There is usually no rain, but a lot of snow, which is one of the abiotic factors of the environment. The biotic factors are all the living things in the taiga, like the animals and the plants.
Ecological succession is the series of predictable changes that occur in a community over time. An example of this would be in the taiga. When the glaciers melted, a pioneer species of lichens will grow on the bare rock. This is primary succession.
Secondary succession in the taiga could happen if farmland is abandoned and the remaining trees spread their seeds to fill the area that was left.
Nutrients are all the chemical substances that an organism needs to sustain life. Every living organism needs nutrients to build tissues and carry out essential life functions.
Symbiosis, when two species live closely together, occurs when different types of birds live in the trees together. Mutualism happens here when worms in the soil and the ground eat the nutrients that are bad for the soil, so the worm has food and the soil is healthy.
An example of a food chain in the taiga would be grass, which is the producer, and then the weasel will eat the grass since it's the primary consumer, and then the lynx will eat the weasel since it's the secondary consumer. All the food chains in the taiga would make the food web.
There are many relationships between the organisms in the taiga. Predation, which is when one organism captures another, happens when an animal attacks another for food.
Here you see a lynx killing a weasel to feed itself. An example of parasitism is when a flea is living on a lynx or snow leopard and they are feeding on its flesh. Commensalism occurs when birds make nests in the trees. This gives the birds a place to live but doesn't help or harm the tree.
The roots of plants called legumes convert nitrogen gas into ammonia in a process known as nitrogen fixation. Other soil bacteria will convert the nitrates into nitrogen gas in a process called denitrification. The limiting nutrient in the taiga would be the phosphorus because its cycle is very slow and is very scarce in the biome.
The population density of moose in the taiga is dense. These moose emigrated from Alaska and immigrated into Russia.
Carbon dioxide is taken in by plants during photosynthesis and is given off by both plants and animals during respiration. 4 main types of processes move carbon through its cycle. Biological processes, such as photosynthesis, respiration, and decomposition, take up and release carbon and oxygen. Geochemical processes, such as erosion and volcanic activity, release carbon dioxide to the atmosphere and oceans. Mixed biogeochemical processes, such as the burial and decomposition of dead organisms and their conversion under pressure into coal and petroleum, which is fossil fuels, store carbon underground. Human activities such as mining, cutting, and burning forests and burning fossil fuels release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere.
Once the moose got to Russia, the population of wolves decreased due to the increase of exponential growth of the moose. Because the population of moose increased, the population of grass decreased, which is an example of logistic
Because
growth.
the population of grass decreased, the carrying capacity of moose decreased because they had nothing to eat. The limiting factor in this situation is the grass.
Since grass is a renewable resource, it is able to grow back, but not fast enough for the moose. An example of a non-renewable resource is oil, because once you use it, you cannot get it back.
The bigger the population of humans, the more deforestation and pollutants there are. Desertification does not occur in the taiga because of the climate.
If a weed was sprayed with weed killer, then a moose came and ate the weeds, then a timber wolf eats the moose, the biomagnifications of this weed killer indicates that the wolf would be most affected by the chemicals in the biomass.
The biodiversity in the taiga is high. It is one of Earth's greatest natural resources.